Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Longo. Welcome to Everyday Rockstar Moms, where every episode I'll interview moms just like you who are rocking it in their homes, raising their children, managing their households, building their careers, working on their relationships, dealing with challenges, finding success, trying to find balance, and themselves along the way. Every episode you'll hear from women just like you of all ages and stages of motherhood, sharing their stories, life experiences, and leaving you with practical tips, ideas, and inspiration to help you rock your life. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Lisa Wilby. Lisa is a health and food enthusiast and single mom of 3 great kids, 2 teenage boys, and 1 daughter who is attending university now. Today we talked about Lisa's journey in motherhood, her transition in relocating to another part of the country, starting a business, ending a business, and ultimately finding meaningful work that allows her to raise her children and be present for them as well. We also talked about how her separation from the father of her children was a pivotal step in her own growth as a woman, how she has found happiness on her own, and the joy she finds in everyday moments with her kids. Lisa believes we are all in charge of our own happiness. She certainly models that for her children and people around her. It's a fun episode today. Check it out. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I've known you for ages. I remember first meeting you years and years ago when I had my first practice. You came to one of the moms groups there. We really connected because of our similar values with raising our kids, and we like to have fun together. And life has gone different directions for both of us. Perhaps you can start today by giving our listeners a sort of a snapshot of who you are and where you're at right now.
You're right. Since I've known you, I was living in Ontario then, but I'm originally from New Brunswick, so I'm living back here. Moved back here about 9 years ago. And I'm a mom of 3 soon to be all teenagers, but 19, 16, and almost 13. So I think back when I knew you, they were really
babies,
small.
yeah.
And so 1 child has already left home, and I'm working full time, and I'm a single parent, single person dating, I guess.
Very good.
So,
and you're working in a place that it sounds to me from our pre-chat that gives you some joy and uses some of your skills in the kitchen.
Yeah, I work for a community food center as the manager of the teaching kitchen. So my background is food. I used to own my own restaurant and done lots of things involving food, but this has been great because I get to cook, but I get to teach cooking to our clients and talk about budgeting food, healthy foods, and where food comes from and how and what to do with it. So it's fulfilling for me when you see people kind of loving food, and sort of the light bulb goes on sometimes with certain things. So it's really been rewarding.
Now, and it sounds like it offers you a balance with being a single parent in your home with your kids as well.
It does, because when I owned a business, I was pretty much 24/7 and constantly feeling guilty when I was at the business about my children, and then when I would be home with the children, I'd be guilty about work. So
right, because you opened the cafe when your kids were still young.
They were, yeah. And then I moved it. I opened it in 2011. No, 2009, sorry, in a little small place. And then I moved it. We were 2 years there, and I moved it downtown to a larger place. And then it became really more staffing, more and more of everything. So, yeah, it was really difficult. And we were open 7 days a week, so there was never really a day off.
So you had that challenge of wanting to grow in your business and passion for it, with it not really working very well with your family life, it sounds.
No. And at the time, yeah, it was okay. Like, the children understood it. And I was lucky to have my daughter work there. So from the time she was 14, she had a little part-time job. So that was awesome. And my plan was to get them all in there eventually. I thought it would be a really great family business. That was my goal. It just didn't work out that way. But I thought, what a great way to work together, learn about food. And it would have been a good background for them for their future. But anyway, that was my intention.
Yeah, and as we both know, life doesn't always happen in that straight, direct line from
Definitely
A
not.
to B. There's lots of twists and turns along the way.
Absolutely.
As a mom, would you say that you've had any moments that really, I mean, I'm sure you've had several in your transition from Ontario to New Brunswick and life in general, but are there any moments that really stand out for you as far as defining who you are as a woman, which then obviously affects who you are as a mom?
Yeah, actually, I think the separation was one moment because then you're with someone for years and years and years, and then suddenly, well, first you make the decision to separate, and then once you do it, then you realize you really are on your own. So having to really rely on myself in a way, like in a deep, deep way, that was a moment, I think, when I
Mm-hmm.
realized that. And then my kids were looking at me as well, like for their security. So there was no, whatever I was feeling, I had to hold it in and, really dig my feet in and stand up tall and try to be really strong.
So, what were some of the strategies that really helped you during that time? I mean, if you felt like if you were on your own, you kids couldn't see you cry. I mean, and I've certainly been there too. And when
Yeah.
my marriage ended, they couldn't see you struggling. What gave you some hope and some purpose and kept you going?
Well, really little things. Like I thought I've got to stick to doing things that I really enjoy and try to involve them if I can. If they don't want to, though, I still have to. So one of the things would have been exercising. I thought it really helped me with my mental well-being. So whatever I could do and however I could do it. Yoga was one thing. I used to run a little bit or just whatever. I had to do that. Um, so finding little moments like that for myself and then trying to, going for bike rides, trying to get them to come with me so that we could have moments together that weren't just all about the hustle and bustle of getting dinner on the table and getting your kids to bed and then getting them up and, doing all those things. Um, so exercise and then doing little bits and pieces for myself. As they got older and could stay on their own, if I wanted to go to a movie, I'd go to a movie. So things like that.
Yeah, just trying to find the time wherever you could.
Yeah, and not feel guilty about it because then I would come back and I'd be better. I'd be better mom.
Yeah, that's something that comes up consistently on all the conversations I've had on the podcast is the importance of taking time out, taking time for yourself.
Absolutely. And as you know what, it makes it sound easy, but sometimes it wasn't to organize that. I had to make sure that they wherever they needed to be and arrange for their pickups or drop-offs or whatever,
Hmm.
just so I could find that, 2 hours. But it was worth it
Yeah, it's
because
something that I'm trying to really help moms remember is
yeah,
that you are the core. I mean, just as you said when you went through your separation, it was pivotal for you, but you were the only one there, right? So you had to
yeah.
navigate the household, the schoolwork, the meals, the emotional roller coaster of being on your own, and where's your outlet? And if you're not strong and if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't give anything to your children or anyone else in your life.
No, that's true. And the other thing I think I would do too, and realize that we're all like living in this house, is I would have people over for dinner, and I really enjoyed that. And so they started to enjoy it too, and then their friends would come over. So we just sort of found a different way of being and living, and it was sort of happier, I think, in
Hmm.
some ways.
Well, you sounded like you created that though too.
Well, that's it. And I wanted my daughter especially to see, like you can create your own happiness and you don't have to rely on a man or a boy or whatever for happiness. Like you are your own person. And I remember realizing that when they were young, there was a moment there when I realized I was in charge of my own happiness.
Hmm.
And but taking the steps to do that, again, it sets you up for it opens you up, sorry, for some criticism as well.
Hmm.
You're not, doing everything for your children. What kind of a mom are you, kind of thing. But then it's, you got to just grit your teeth and push through that because you know what you're doing is right for you.
Absolutely, and that brings up it's a great segue because I always like to ask moms, as a woman, as a mother, have you been challenged on any decisions that you've made for your kids, and if so, how have you dealt with that?
Well, just the same way, just knowing what I'm doing inside, it feels right. And I've always been a gut instinct kind of person. And I think the more that I practice that, the easier it's become because then you start to trust it more. And so when people would, I got comments all the time when I was at the business, right? When I had my business, because I was a woman, and people would come in and say, "Well, where's your husband?"
Hmm.
And I'd say it was so funny because it got to the point where I'd literally plant my feet, Melissa, and stand tall and say, "I don't have a husband." And then they'd say, "Well, where's the boss?"
Hmm.
And I got questions like that all the time. I'm like, "Well, I'm the boss. So if you're going to have to deal with me, this is it. What is it that you want? You know what I mean?" And sometimes they'd have a hard time with that. They want to deal with a man.
Sounds to me like, so this is the like 2016 now,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And so again, with the business, I mean, again, assuming just because I was a woman that I couldn't possibly be operating a business. And then with, people would ask me, "Well, how are your kids? Where are they? How are they doing?" Sort of insinuating, "Well, maybe I'm not. How are you mothering?
Mm-hmm.
You're operating this business," which was pretty full on. So I think really just digging my heels in and just knowing what I was doing was right, and that at the end of the day, when I went home, I knew everything was okay. Didn't matter what they thought.
Mm-hmm.
And again realized another thing that I used to do was teach yoga and practice yoga. And then when I was at the business, people would say, "Well, are you practicing yoga? Are you still doing yoga?" And I would say, "Yeah, I do it every day." And they'd look at me, and I would say, "Well, I'm standing here with my feet on the ground and I'm practicing yoga right now." So again, like just certain judgments, like people are used to things operating in a certain way, and if you do it in another way, and they don't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really what yoga is to me. It's taking it off the mat. It's not just going to a yoga class and plunking yourself on a mat for an hour and a half. It's how are you going to take that into real life and use it in your everyday experience.
Yeah, and most of the best yoga instructors will tell you that, right? It's not
Yeah.
just on being flexible. It's on the actual
Well,
principles of being in the
exactly.
moment and
And it's
knowing your
being
body.
and it's being flexible in your life, like with being able to go with the flow, like all of those sayings, uh, ride the wave, whatever, however everybody says it, but it's really true. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what it is. It's in your mind. You do all of that body work to calm your mind and
Mm-hmm.
to be able to deal with real life things that come at you. So I think that really helped me a lot. Yoga, taking a couple of breaths every once in a while when I would feel stressed or with people would say things. Another question I got a lot was funny is, because I was a single mom with three kids, do they all have the same father? And so just things like that. It's just funny.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like in that whole experience, and maybe continually, that you're getting some great confidence and self awareness, and in just dealing with
Yeah.
confrontation like that in a sense.
Well, and like people, and I hate to say it, but and most people are good. I really believe that, but I think there's a lot of people who might take joy if in the failure of someone else. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that just individually. I just think people like it's sort of that whole election thing that's going on with the states, and people love drama, and
Mm-hmm.
things are going wrong, and they're just really like they thrive on it. There are some
Mm-hmm.
people who do that. So I think that you know, small town, woman owning a kind of a successful business. Well, wait a minute, let's wait for something to go wrong here, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
got,
you probably brought a different energy to it, having lived in bigger cities and having had more life
yeah,
experience when you went and opened your business.
yeah. No, it was really, really fun place. But anyway,
Let's talk about what the decision to close your business, where that came from.
well, small town, single, like I was just one person with the business and it had grown quite a bit. So again, one of the challenges I think with the home life, I wanted to work more on the business rather than just in it all the time, but that was really difficult because, you know, um,
Because it was just you.
it was just me. I realized then in a lot of businesses, there were partners, like there were two or three partners involved. And so I did search for a partner for a while and unsuccessfully. And I tried to change things inside. But anyway, we had a couple of really bad winters here out east. I think you probably had them in Ontario too, where we had so much snow,
Yeah.
more snow than anyway. So that really affected the downtown core. And I remember downtown businesses getting together, like talking about, because they couldn't remove the snow from the parking spaces downtown. So that was a problem. people couldn't, get downtown. It was just interesting. So a couple of bad winters, and as a small business,
Every
that
day
gets
counts.
hard to recover. Every day absolutely does count. So there was that, and then my rent was high and just sort of going up, rent going up, and it was a little bit of a struggle there for a while. And then what happened really to make my decision was my middle son broke his leg really badly in two places, and the whole time I'd been doing this business for my children, or that's what I thought. That was my purpose. And then he broke his leg, and I couldn't look after him. And a light bulb went off. I just thought, this is ridiculous. I can't be there for my son when he needs me the most. So I just made a decision then to close it.
And never look back.
I probably look back for the first year, but
Yeah.
you know, I went through a bit of about a 4 month depression, but then I came out of it. Another thing with that, I didn't regret the decision at all. As soon as I made the decision in my mind, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, it was 1,000 pounds of weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I realized it was the right decision
Right.
because that's what was holding me down, and I was constantly struggling, fighting against it. And I really believe that life should be easy and fun. I don't think it needs to be, not that to say that we shouldn't work hard, but it should be fun. And more, I think people need to have more fun, rather than struggle, struggle, struggle constantly, constantly, constantly. So I made the decision. It felt like the right decision. And then I thought, well, how am I going to do it? So that was another challenge, but that all came together. And yeah, and then the other thing that happened too, I think when you own a business and you have all these people who want you and like you and want to be around you, and then all of a sudden they all disappeared. So that was another wake up call, but that was awesome though, because then you really find out who your true friends are, and that is a really great thing to know. Like at first it was devastating, but then I realized, wow, this is awesome.
That's a really powerful thing that you just said, because a lot of people would see that whole situation and think, oh my God, my business failed, which it didn't. I mean, you had to
Oh,
realistically look at the situation. As you said, that the circumstances showed up the way they did.
yep.
You deliberately made a choice that was in your family's best interest and your son's best interest. But other people could look at the situation from a different perspective and say, oh, you closed your business, and then, oh, you would have gone into depression because everyone left you. But you're
Yep.
turning it around already and saying, wow, it was the best thing ever.
Well, it kind of was. I mean, and it was definitely a learning curve. I learned a lot of things, but even how I would have run the business differently. And even when I was doing it, I knew what I should be doing, but it was hard to make the changes at that point. So, um, yeah, and then you find out who your real friends are. And I was expending a lot of energy, personal energy on these people, so-called people that, because you're a small business owner again in a small town, and they're like, they need you. They need you. You have to, if you don't say hi to them in the grocery store, oh, what kind of a business, you know what I mean? They might not come into your place the next day. So there's a lot of, this one's having this party, this one's having that. You should go here, you've got to go there. You got to kind of be that person, that business person about town and say hi to everybody, and I thought, wow, that was a lot of energy. So that they'd come back to my place and have a coffee, like a $3 coffee. And, really, I don't have to do that anymore. It was ridiculous. I remember after that, I wanted to, this is just being a little bit funny, but I wanted to run a school on how to be a good customer. Because I thought customers who take and take, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it was just interesting because you know what? You're a business owner, you're a business, you're not there to for people to bleed you dry. It was really a lot of emotional energy. And so that's another thing that, again, when you're in it, you don't realize it. And then you're out of it and you're going, wow.
And for some people, a lot of people might completely thrive on that. I think the takeaway here is that for you, where you're at with your life at that time, it served the purpose that it did for you and your kids and your family, but then you realized it wasn't all that you wanted in your life.
No, it was part of it. And I'm glad I did it. I can't believe, when I look back on it, I can't even believe I did it. I don't know how I did it. You know, and I'll have people run into me now and they'll say, oh, you look 5 years younger or whatever. Because I'm sure I had that look on my face that, I know how I was feeling inside, and you always had to be on. And
So there's
yeah,
this level of stress coursing through your body all the time.
absolutely. Yeah. So that was probably good. Good. Like I said, I don't regret that decision. And I got to do a lot of amazing things and meet a lot of amazing people. So
Everything is a sounds cliche, but a lot of things are stepping stones to other things in life, and the experience that you gain from running your business has probably improved other things that you're doing with your work right now.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
During that time or during times in general, is there, you talked earlier about telling your daughter that she's in charge of her own happiness and having that as a motto, but is there other quotes or people or things that inspire you?
Well, quotes. Well, there's a quote that I like that I kind of came up with when I was running one day. And I think about it all the time. It's really simple. I come in peace, I speak the truth, and it's all about love. And I know that sounds kind of corny, but it came to me one day when I was running in Wasaga Beach, actually along the shoreline, and and that's how I feel. I think when I am running, I get to that place and or doing yoga or just taking a few moments for yourself and you just kind of come back to that center in your body. And if all things can come from there, it just makes life a lot more simple.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And another influential person in my life has been my older brother, and he's been so supportive and unconditionally loving towards me my whole life that has really inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I try to do with my children, as mothering them, of course, teaching them things and, brush your teeth and go to bed and all of that. But it's really to be wise and loving and supportive. And I think that's, again, as a single mom, that's so important. And so if we can just like maybe do that for each other, I think there needs to be more of that. Because when you have support, when you really feel supported, I think you can do anything and go anywhere.
Oh, I would agree. I think that's,
Yeah.
as I mentioned previously on the podcast, that's a big reason why I wanted to do this, because what I see in my practice and in day to day, connections and social lives, is a lot of women feel like they're just the only ones struggling with maybe a change in a friendship, or their relationship isn't what they wanted it to be, or their work is not fulfilling. And you're never alone. There's always other
No,
people that are dealing with the same thoughts and feelings. And if you feel supported and connected and less alone, it can often make a huge difference in your day to day life.
absolutely. And even like you say, like just knowing that, not necessarily having those people around you, but just knowing that there are other people like that out there is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you've talked about the struggle and the challenges of having your business and parenting as a single mom. We've talked about some of the criticisms you've had. Where would you say right now? When do you perform your best? Like, what are the things that make you just completely feel like you're in your element, happy, grounded?
Well, again, simple things, doing those things that I love, but honestly, just having enough sleep, making sure I get enough sleep. That's been a big thing that I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sleep again helps with positive attitude, helps for me to connect with myself and others, which I love connecting with people. Eating well, eating healthy, like all of those things get all the cylinders firing, um, and just feeling relaxed. And then that's when I think I perform my best. I can plant my feet on the ground and stand up tall and take another step.
Mm-hmm. So we haven't chatted too much yet about you as a woman now dating. I'm sure over the years you've been separated, you've had relationships for dating. How has that been with having three kids, sorry?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Kind of difficult because my ex, or the father of my children, lives in another town, like another province. So there's not really any break, but it's okay. Sometimes I get frustrated, but usually it's fine. Dating, it's interesting because like, I don't want to have at my age, I'm not having any more children, and usually the men that I date don't either. So that's off the table. So I find that very interesting. Like the focus is different. You're not 20 and you're not looking to start a family and looking for different things. So it's interesting. I'm not sure, really. It feels like a little bit like I'm in limbo, but that's okay. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're just, for so many women when they either have different expectations of dating or different strategies when they've got children in their lives. And, sure, when you're a mom and you have children around, you don't have the freedom to just, go out and go on a date whenever you want. Or, you have most moms I talk to have, strict parameters when they want their kids to meet potential, partners and whatnot. And I just think it's an important conversation for other women to feel connected to.
Yeah, and I think it's different. Like my children are a little older now, and I'm for me it's really important, and I know they still want me to be their mom and everything, but at the same time, mom has to have her own life because at one point and very soon, like it happens sooner than you think, that the children are going to be gone, and then who are you?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't start working on that before they go, like I've known a couple of mothers who put all of their time and energy into their children, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's awesome, except that their children leave and then they don't know what to do with themselves. So that's been something that I've been really aware of almost. And so balancing that, again, you get criticism, I've put some stuff on hold too. And then when I had my business, everyone was like, well, what are you doing? And then, but you have to be your own person. And I think that's a good thing to model for your children as well, because I am a parent, yes, but I'm also, at least Wilby, like
A woman. Yeah.
who has other interests and things that I like. And yes, I love my children, but I think that's one of the best things we can do for them is especially our daughters.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. I mean, looking after you as a person then allows you, even those 2 hours that you're able to carve out, regardless of how much coordination it took to make the logistics work, those 2 hours that you had away from your kids allowed you actually to come back to them more present and engaged likely.
Absolutely. And another thing too is think about this. If everybody looked after themselves, if everybody really did that for themselves, like figure out what made them happy, took time for themselves, were healthy, slept enough, did all that stuff. Imagine how less needy the world would be. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, okay, that would be a perfect scenario, but I'm thinking like we all should do that. It's like people think it's selfish, but it's not. You're contributing more to the world, I think, when you're able to look after yourself, because when you do that, then you're able to give more.
And I know that several guests on the podcast have talked about, the basic hierarchy of needs. You need to make sure that your needs as a human being are met. And I think it becomes tougher when you're a mom because moms still seem like they're the ones that do everything in a lot of families.
Well, here's the thing too, like, guess what? If you don't look after your needs, who else is going to do it? So, like, you might want to think that someone is going to, but they're not going to. And even with your children, like, we look after their needs, but at the same time, we're teaching them how to look after themselves too. How to get dressed in the morning, how to brush their teeth, how to, all of that stuff from the time they're babies to, when they go to the bathroom on their own. That's our job, is to teach them how to be self-sufficient. And in that is looking after themselves and then helping others.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so it's important. So they have to see you do that too, I think.
It's like modeling anything. We want to model healthy eating habits. We have to model proper self-care. And absolutely. I think it's perfectly healthy for our kids to see us as human beings and not just mom.
And I remember that too when I was growing up and I realized that my parents were real people and not like superstars. Mm-hmm. It was a moment. Like, I remember thinking, wow, like I think I saw my mom cry or something, or my dad, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, wow, it was a moment. And I thought, wow, they're real people. Like, it was devastating. and I wondered when our kids realized that, you know what I mean? I think as a single mom, my kids realized that a lot sooner than I did, but yeah, it's interesting. Like, we're real people too. Mm-hmm. There's only so much in a day that we can do. And then one of my favorite things to say is, you know what, tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
If you can't get it all done today, tomorrow's another day.
I used to joke with my kids when they were younger saying, I know you need me to be an octopus mom.
Yeah.
But I really only have 2 hands and I'm doing the best I can right now.
Yeah, I say that too. I said, I'm doing the best I can. And some days I have more energy than other days, and that's okay.
Yeah, or I used to say, and I still say sometimes, I mean, I'm just one person here. So I know you both need me for different things, but everyone needs me right now. And I only have 2 hands. and, one full heart for all of you, but,
Yeah.
I'm only one person. And I wonder if when you're a single parent, obviously it changes your life experience for both yourself and for your kids. So there's got to be a shift there that happens.
Yeah, there has to be. And like I said, I don't know, what they're thinking. And I try to talk to them and see, check in with them, like how their heart is doing more than also what all their physical needs are all the time. Because those are easy to meet.
Right.
You
Do you
need
find
to
it more difficult with boys than with your daughter?
Yes and no, just finding the time to know when they're most open. Like I figure when they don't want to talk to me, I'm not going to force it. So one of the times I get one of them is in the car. I know that sounds odd, but if we're in the car alone, him and I don't know, we start talking and that's where we get it out. So
Absolutely. I think a lot of parents would say that.
It's about finding, I think, knowing because when you have more than one, obviously they all have different personalities and emotional needs. So that's the challenge in finding out what each of them need emotionally from you. Yeah. And again, support. Like I'm a big believer in that. I want my children to feel supported and loved no matter what. I think that can take a person a long way. So, that's what I do for myself, and that if I end up with anybody, that's what I would want from that person.
Is there any advice you would give to yourself if you were to look back? If we were to, rewind your life, is there anything that you wish you did differently as a mother?
No, I don't really believe in regret, but what I would tell my younger self, I think, is just, and again, I think I had to go through the whole restaurant phase to figure that out, is just find your people, find the people who you feel loved and supported by, and you don't have to go be friends with everybody.
Find your tribe.
Find your tribe. Yeah. But first of all, love yourself first, and then because then you can let go of the things that don't serve you. Instead of, I think as women and as a mom, you're trying to please everybody and do everything, and it can get like too built up and too crazy. So I think that was the restaurant lesson for me. It was just like, it got really nuts. It's like the universe said, really? You want to go? Okay, let's go crazy. And it went crazy and then it crashed, but it was the best thing. Because all that unnecessary, because all that unnecessary stuff was gone.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience today, Lisa. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of women listening.
Well, I hope so. Thanks. It was fun.
We'll talk to you soon. All the best and everything that life is throwing your way these days.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Talk to you soon.
There you have it. A great story today from a mom who rocks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. When you do that, I'll be sending you a copy of my top 10 tips for moms. These are some of my personal practical strategies I believe that as women we can all benefit from and help us be emotionally and physically as healthy as we can be. When you're also there on iTunes, I would also love it if you left a review. It's really important to leave some reviews because that helps other people find the podcast, and it helps inspire them to listen and potentially gain some insight from the podcast. Tell other moms that you know would benefit from this show, or most certainly nominate them and let me know who you think I should be interviewing. I'd love for you to connect with us on Facebook as well. Head on over to Everyday Rockstar Mom and join our community there. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.